Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring Unshaken, a book by Rajesh Setty. And, the endorsements alone, just the endorsements, they had me hooked.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you see names like Chip Conley and Rich Litvin just singing its praises. It definitely catches your eye.
Right. And they're not just like, generic compliments either.
Yeah.
Conley, who, he's a cancer survivor, right? He found real solace in Setty's journey. And Litvin calls Setty one of these rare characters who approach life as an infinite game. So what is it about Setty's story that's so captivating? Well, he takes us through his experience of being diagnosed with Parkinson's. And honestly, his vulnerability and insights, they're incredible.
Yeah, it's really something. You feel like you're right there with him, as he navigates this life-altering diagnosis. And along the way, like he unearths these really powerful lessons about resilience and perspective. And honestly, anyone can benefit from these, whether you're dealing with a health challenge or just any other curveball life throws your way, really.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to unpack today. So our mission today is to really extract 2 or 3 powerful life lessons from Setty's journey. Hopefully, by the end, you'll be intrigued enough to pick up the book yourself. So this story, it begins with something we can all relate to, a yawn.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, right? How something so ordinary can become such a pivotal moment in his life. He describes this yawn, the seemingly harmless yawn, followed by a twitch, like a twitch in his left forearm. And, at first he kind of brushes it off.
Yeah, I think most of us would, right? It's just a little twitch, no big deal.
Yeah, exactly. But, then it becomes this recurring thing, like this undeniable pattern. And that's when the worry starts to creep in.
I can only imagine. And in a move that, I think many of us are guilty of, he turns to Dr. Google, for answers, which, as we all know, can often lead to more anxiety than reassurance.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? We have access to so much information at our fingertips. But sifting through it all, especially when it comes to health, well, it can be pretty overwhelming, even misleading sometimes. And in Setty's case, it fueled his fear and his uncertainty, for sure.
So what does he do? Well, he takes the sensible step, right, of seeking professional help.
Yes. And this is where his, medical odyssey begins, this journey through consultations with doctors.
Yeah.
Starting with his primary care physician, then a neurologist, and finally, specialists at Stanford. And it's a process, this whole process that's filled with, tests, misdiagnoses, even, fleeting moments of relief, but they quickly evaporate.
Yeah, there's this initial glimmer of hope. When they think it might be a muscular issue.
Yeah.
And so they prescribe muscle relaxants, and the symptoms vanish. And he's thinking, great, problem solved. But it's very short-lived.
Right. The symptoms come back, and with a vengeance, really. And he's back to square one. And after, what must have felt like an eternity of waiting and wondering, he finally receives the diagnosis, the life-altering diagnosis, early-stage Parkinson's.
The way he describes the emotional impact is so raw and honest. He talks about feeling numb, like he was in a daze. And I think that sense of shock and disbelief, it's something anyone facing a serious diagnosis can relate to.
Absolutely. And it's at this point that we see Setty's, his incredible strength and resilience, it starts to emerge. He doesn't allow himself to be consumed by despair. Instead, he searches for a framework, like a way to understand and navigate this new reality. And what he finds, well, it's a bit surprising, to say the least. It's the ancient strategy game of Go.
That's so interesting. I would never have thought of Go, as the source of life lessons, but the way he connects it to his experience, it's brilliant. He talks about how Go, just like life, right, is full of unpredictability. We can't control the moves the universe makes, right? But every move opens up new possibilities.
Yeah, I love that analogy because it highlights the importance of adapting to change, right? And just being open to those unexpected opportunities, even when things don't go according to plan.
Exactly. And he also emphasizes the element of skill. Our ability to see and act on those possibilities is shaped by, by our skills and how we choose to develop them. It's a subtle but powerful reminder that we have agency in how we respond to life's challenges.
Yeah. And Setty, he embodies that agency perfectly. Rather than becoming passive, he takes this proactive approach to managing his health through something he calls Project AMY.
I was so curious about this. Tell me more.
Well, AMY stands for Ayurveda, meditation, and yoga. It's his way of establishing a sense of routine and control amidst all the uncertainty.
It sounds like he found a way to reclaim some power over his situation, which,
Sure.
I think is so important when dealing with something as overwhelming as, as a Parkinson's diagnosis. But before we get too deep into Project AMY, I think this is a good place to pause.
I agree. We've covered a lot of ground already, from that initial yawn all the way to the life-altering diagnosis. And it's in this moment, facing this new reality, that Seti, he begins to develop his unique philosophy on life, which we'll explore next. So picking up where we left off, right? He's faced with this life-altering diagnosis, and instead of succumbing to fear, like, he chooses to be proactive. He creates Project AMY, right?
Yeah.
His own personalized system for managing his health. But I'm curious, how does he actually use these things? Like, how does he use Ayurveda, meditation, and yoga to actually address the challenges of Parkinson's?
That's a great question. And, he doesn't just dabble in these practices. He really dives deep. Like, for example, with Ayurveda, he talks about how it helps him understand his unique constitution, right? And to make these lifestyle adjustments that really support his overall well-being.
That makes sense. It's about tailoring those ancient principles to his specific needs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then there's meditation, which he uses to cultivate mindfulness and to manage stress. Parkinson's, it can be incredibly stressful, both physically and emotionally. And meditation, it helps him find a sense of calm, amidst the storm.
It's like he's building resilience, right? From the inside out, equipping himself with these tools to navigate the challenges ahead. And what about yoga? I know that can be really helpful for physical flexibility and strength, but how does it apply to Parkinson's specifically?
Well, he talks about how the practice of yoga helps him improve his balance and coordination, which are often affected by Parkinson's. And it's not just about, maintaining mobility and strength, but it's also about connecting with his body.
Right.
And becoming more aware of its subtle cues.
What strikes me about Project AMY is that it's not just about managing symptoms, It's about taking this holistic approach to well-being, I think. And I think there's a valuable lesson there for all of us, even if we're not facing a specific health challenge.
I completely agree. It's about proactively taking care of ourselves, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So we see Seti embracing this proactive mindset, but, as we all know, life rarely goes according to plan, right? And he soon encounters a new hurdle. It's called micrographia, and it's the loss of fine motor control, which, directly impacts his ability to write.
And for Seti, who is a prolific writer, this is a major blow. Imagine having something you love, something that's so central to your identity, slowly slipping away. It's heartbreaking.
It really is. And he doesn't sugarcoat his struggles at all. He talks about the frustration, the sense of loss. But then something remarkable happens. He finds this workaround, a way to keep writing despite the challenges.
This is where the Napkinsights come in, right? I love this part of the book.
Me too. It's such a creative and ingenious solution. He starts creating these quote images, which he calls Napkinsights, and he starts sharing them online. And it's amazing how this seemingly simple act, it opens up this whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of what Seti calls the problem plus possibility package.
Yeah.
He argues that within every problem, no matter how daunting, there are these hidden seeds of new possibilities. It's a shift in perspective that allows us to see challenges not as roadblocks, but as springboards for growth and innovation.
It's like he's turning lemons into lemonade, but on a whole other level.
Exactly. And I think that's such an empowering message for anyone going through a tough time. It's a reminder that we always have a choice in how we respond to adversity. We can choose to be defined by our problems, or we can choose to find the possibilities within them.
And what's so inspiring about Seti is that, he doesn't just talk about these concepts, he embodies them. The way he turns micrographia into this opportunity for creative expression with Napkinsights it's a testament to that. But he takes it even further with this fascinating concept he calls the law of precession.
Ah, yes, the law of precession. This is where he brings in the analogy of honeybees, right?
Exactly. He explains that honeybees, in their pursuit of gathering nectar, they inadvertently contribute to the vital process of pollination.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful illustration of how consistent action in one direction can create these unintended but positive consequences in another.
So it's not always about having a crystal clear end goal. Sometimes the most impactful outcomes, they emerge from simply staying in motion, pursuing our passions and trusting that positive results, they'll follow. But isn't that just another way of saying, luck? Are we just hoping for the best and leaving it up to chance?
That's a good question, and I think Seti would argue that it's more than just luck. It's about putting ourselves out there, being consistent in our efforts, and being open to the unexpected ways in which those efforts, might bear fruit. It's about recognizing that our actions, they often have these ripple effects that we may not immediately perceive.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's about setting things in motion, even
Yeah.
if we don't have all the answers, right?
Exactly. And that brings us back to Seti's journey with Napkinsights. His consistent creation of these, quote, images, initially a way to cope with micrographia,
Hmm.
it led to these unexpected benefits, beyond just maintaining his writing ability. He connected with people online, sparked conversations, and even laid the groundwork for future opportunities.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most unexpected paths, they lead to the most fulfilling destinations. But, Seti's journey, it doesn't end there. He faces even more challenges, pushes his own boundaries, and continues to discover these new depths to his resilience and creativity.
As we've been talking about Seti's journey, I've been thinking a lot about that quote from Susan Scott's Foreword, where she says this book will help you find your footing on whatever shaky ground you find yourself.
Oh yeah, that's a great quote. Really captures the essence of what Seti's trying to convey.
Yeah.
It's about finding that inner strength, that unshakable core that allows us to navigate the uncertainties of life.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder, like, what were some of the key takeaways for you? What resonated the most?
Well, there are so many to choose from, honestly, but one that keeps coming back to me is that idea of focusing on what remains rather than what's lost. It's so easy to get caught up in the things we no longer have or the things we can no longer do. But Seti, he challenges us to shift our perspective.
Yeah, I remember him telling this really funny story about imagining a conversation with God,
Yeah.
about his Parkinson's diagnosis. And
Mm,
he asked God, why me? And God basically responds with, well, you still have everything else, right?
that's so Seti. Finding humor even in the most challenging situations.
Yeah.
But there's such wisdom in that anecdote too. It's this gentle reminder that even when we experience loss, there's always something to be grateful for, something to build upon. And speaking of building, that leads us to another key concept, the idea of building blocks.
Yes. He talks about those skills, those experiences, those relationships that really serve as a foundation for future success. And and he emphasizes that those building blocks, they often emerge from unexpected places. It's
Sure.
like that saying, you never know what you have until it's gone.
Right, exactly. And I think for Seti, his Parkinson's diagnosis, as difficult as it was, it became this catalyst for discovering new building blocks,
Yeah.
new strengths and resources within himself that he might not have otherwise tapped into. And that brings us to you, the listener. What are your building blocks? What do you have in your arsenal that can help you navigate challenges, pursue your passions, create a life that is truly meaningful to you?
These are questions worth pondering. And honestly, Unshaken is a book that will stay with you long after you finish reading it. It's thought-provoking, it's insightful, and it's incredibly inspiring.
And for anyone looking for practical tools and strategies, Seti even outlines a framework. He calls it the magic switch. It's this combination of giving the right gifts, having the right mentors, and crafting the right narratives.
God loves that part. It's about recognizing the power we have to shape our own reality, not just by our actions, but also by how we connect with others
Mhm.
and how we tell our stories.
Yeah, it's about leveraging our strengths, building a supportive network, and using our voices to inspire and create change, really.
So if you're feeling a little shaken by life's curveballs, or if you're searching for that inner strength and resilience,
Yeah.
or even if you're just curious about how to navigate the adventure zone with more grace and more purpose, I highly recommend checking out Unshaken.
Yeah, it's more than just a book. It's an invitation to discover your own unshakable core and to create a life that is both, fulfilling and impactful.
And that's it for our deep dive into Unshaken. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, you are unshakable.